Behind the glamorous facade of Hollywood's brightest stars often lurked minds of surprising intellectual depth. While audiences swooned over their on-screen personas, many iconic actors were quietly exploring the fundamental questions of existence, morality, and human nature through rigorous philosophical study. These weren't just casual dabblers. Many held degrees in philosophy, wrote philosophical texts, and deliberately incorporated philosophical principles into their performances. Their philosophical training wasn't just academic decoration, but profoundly shaped how they approached their craft and the characters they brought to life. Let's dive straight into it. The boy wonder who created Citizen Kane at just 25 was far more than a filmmaking prodigy. He was a philosophical thinker who revolutionized approaches to acting and directing. Welles developed a profound philosophy of performance, describing acting as like sculpture, a process of revealing truth by removing aspects of oneself rather than adding artificial elements. What made Welles truly revolutionary was his belief that great acting required tapping into universal human elements that exist within everyone. There is a villain in each of us, a murderer in each of us, a fascist in each of us, a saint in each of us, he observed. This philosophical perspective allowed him to create characters of extraordinary psychological complexity despite his youth. Unlike contemporaries who approached roles from technical standpoints, Welles believed performance was a philosophical excavation of the self. This perspective emerged partly from his theatrical background, where he staged groundbreaking productions that challenged conventional wisdom about Shakespeare and other classics. When Welles transitioned to film, he brought this philosophical approach with him, creating characters like Charles Foster Kane who contained multitudes, heroic and villainous, brilliant and foolish. What appeared as technical brilliance to audiences was actually the result of a deeply philosophical understanding of human nature. The philosophical depth Welles brought to his performances wasn't immediately recognized by Hollywood, contributing to his complicated relationship with the studio system. While executives wanted bankable stars, Welles was engaged in philosophical exploration through art, something that wouldn't be fully appreciated until decades after his prime. Twice decorated with Academy Awards, Peter Ustinov represented a rare combination: commercial success paired with profound intellectual achievement. Unlike many actors who played at being intellectuals, Ustinov was recognized as a genuine philosophical thinker who happened to excel at acting. Ustinov's autobiography, Dear Me, 1977, stands as one of the most philosophically rich memoirs ever written by a Hollywood figure. Rather than typical career highlights, Ustinov structured it as a philosophical self-interrogation, exploring fundamental questions about identity, fame, and artistic purpose. What distinguished Ustinov was his ability to hold actual academic posts while maintaining his acting career. Universities sought him not as a celebrity attraction, but as a legitimate intellectual contributor. His philosophical thinking informed every performance, allowing him to find deeper currents in seemingly straightforward roles. In films like Spartacus, where he won his first Oscar, Ustinov brought philosophical nuance to what could have been a one-dimensional character. His portrayal of the slave dealer Batiatus revealed a man caught between pragmatic self-interest and reluctant moral awakening. Perhaps most remarkably, Ustinov's philosophical thinking led him beyond acting to humanitarian work. From 1969 until his death, he served as a UNICEF Goodwill Ambassador, applying philosophical principles to real-world problems while others attached themselves to causes for publicity. The elegant waif who captivated audiences in Roman Holiday and Breakfast at Tiffany's concealed philosophical depths few fans suspected. Though lacking formal training, Hepburn developed a profound life philosophy centered on humanitarian principles that guided both her acting choices and charitable work. Hepburn's philosophical outlook was shaped by traumatic experiences during World War II, when she endured malnutrition and witnessed Nazi atrocities in occupied Netherlands. These experiences developed a perspective that valued compassion and service above material success. As you grow older, you will discover that you have two hands, one for helping yourself, the other for helping others. This statement encapsulated the philosophical framework she lived by. Unlike the self-absorption of many Hollywood careers, Hepburn's perspective was radically other-directed. This philosophy manifested in her approach to fame. While contemporaries chased publicity and fought aging, Hepburn gracefully stepped away from Hollywood at her peak. This wasn't merely a career choice, but a philosophical one, recognizing that life's meaning comes from contribution rather than adulation. Her philosophical principles found their fullest expression in her work as a UNICEF ambassador, where she applied her belief in practical compassion. Hepburn visited war zones and famine-stricken regions, putting philosophical principles of human dignity into practice beyond mere celebrity endorsement. Before becoming a Hollywood heartthrob, Richard Gere spent 2 formative years studying philosophy at the University of Massachusetts Amherst from 1967 to 1969. These philosophical foundations profoundly shaped his approach to acting and activism. Gere's philosophical journey took an unexpected turn when he embraced Buddhism, incorporating Eastern philosophical principles that departed from his Western academic training. This wasn't casual celebrity Buddhism, but serious engagement with complex philosophical traditions. What made Gere's approach unusual was how he integrated Eastern concepts into Western storytelling. In performances like An Officer and a Gentleman, attentive viewers could detect a Buddhist approach to character development. Focusing on transformative potential within flawed individuals, Gere's philosophical commitments sometimes cost him professionally. His outspoken advocacy for Tibet based on Buddhist principles reportedly led to blacklisting for major film projects with Chinese financing. Unlike actors who separated philosophical views from career considerations, Gere placed integrity above commercial interests. Most significantly, Gere's philosophical training enabled him to maintain perspective through extreme fame. While contemporaries became consumed by Hollywood's attention economy, Gere's philosophical framework provided critical distance, allowing him to use fame as a platform for aligned causes. The distinctive character actor best remembered as Vizzini from The Princess Bride harbors one of Hollywood's most sophisticated philosophical minds. Shawn studied philosophy, politics, and economics at Magdalen College, Oxford, training that influenced his unique career combining acting with serious intellectual pursuits. What makes Shawn fascinating is the contradiction between his screen persona as a comedic character actor and his identity as a serious philosophical thinker. This duality reflected Shawn's philosophical interest in how surface appearances often mask deeper realities. Unlike actors who merely studied philosophy before moving to performance, Shawn has maintained parallel careers as an actor and playwright exploring philosophical questions. His plays like The Designated Mourner are recognized as serious philosophical works examining moral responsibility and political violence. Shawn's philosophical approach differs from most Hollywood intellectuals. Rather than offering self-assured moral pronouncements, his work is characterized by uncomfortable self-questioning. His writings often implicate himself and audiences in the systems of privilege he critiques. Perhaps most remarkably, Shawn has maintained philosophical integrity while working within mainstream entertainment. Rather than segregating his philosophical side, he has found ways to infuse seemingly straightforward roles with philosophical nuance, creating memorable characters that subvert audience expectations. The wild and crazy guy who dominated comedy in the 1970s built his seemingly spontaneous humor on a foundation of serious philosophical study. Martin majored in philosophy at California State University, Long Beach in the 1960s, an educational background that provided unexpected preparation for his revolutionary comedy. Martin's philosophical training is evident in his deconstruction of comedy itself. Unlike intuitive comics who relied on natural timing, Martin approached humor almost as a philosophical problem, analyzing why people laugh and systematically subverting expectations. His famous routines weren't random absurdity, but calculated philosophical experiments. "College totally changed my life," Martin explained. "I majored in philosophy. Something about non sequiturs appealed to me. In philosophy, I started studying logic, and they were talking about cause and effect. And you realize, hey, there is no cause and effect. There is no logic." This philosophical approach allowed Martin to create a revolutionary style that commented on comedy while simultaneously being funny. His background enabled him to see humor not just as entertainment, but as exploration of fundamental questions about meaning, expectations, and social conventions. As Martin transitioned to more serious roles in writing, his philosophical training remained evident. Films like Roxanne and novels like Shopgirl contain subtle philosophical explorations beneath entertaining surfaces, examinations of beauty, value, and human connection reflecting his continued philosophical engagement. Before donning Superman's cape, Christopher Reeve was deeply engaged with philosophical questions of identity and ethics. He studied at Cornell with a focus on philosophy before transferring to Juilliard, bringing philosophical rigor to his approach to acting. The philosophical dimensions of Reeve's Superman performance are often overlooked. Rather than playing a straightforward hero, Reeve brought nuanced exploration to the dual identity of Clark Kent/Superman, examining questions about authentic identity that reflected philosophical debates about the nature of self. Reeve's philosophical background became more evident after the accident that left him paralyzed. While many celebrities might have retreated from public life, Reeve applied philosophical principles to his advocacy work, raising profound questions about personhood, bioethics, and meaningful life. His book Still Me transcended the typical celebrity memoir, offering philosophical reflections on how identity persists through radical physical transformation. Reeve challenged prevailing assumptions about disability through philosophical argument, questioning fundamental assumptions about what makes life valuable. The courage Reeve displayed wasn't merely personal bravery, but reflected philosophical convictions about human dignity. His advocacy wasn't based on emotional appeals, but on philosophical principles regarding autonomy and ethical responsibility, turning personal tragedy into an opportunity for public philosophical engagement. Though primarily recognized as a director, Malick occasionally appears in his own films, bringing one of Hollywood's most formidable philosophical minds to the screen. Before filmmaking, Malick earned a philosophy degree from Harvard, studied as a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, and taught philosophy at MIT. Malick's philosophical background was no academic exercise. He studied under Stanley Cavell, translated works by philosopher Martin Heidegger, and nearly completed a doctoral dissertation on the concept of world. This training is evident in films like The Tree of Life, which engage directly with philosophical questions about nature and transcendence. What makes Malick unique is how thoroughly philosophical thinking permeates his vision. While many filmmakers address philosophical themes superficially, Malick's work embodies philosophical inquiry, not illustrating philosophical ideas, but enacting philosophical exploration through cinematic language. Malick's notorious reclusiveness represents a philosophical stance, rejecting the personality cult dominating Hollywood in favor of letting work speak for itself. This approach aligns with philosophical traditions emphasizing ideas over individuals, substance over celebrity. Actors working with Malick often describe the experience as transformative because his philosophical approach challenges conventional techniques rather than focusing on psychology. He guides performers toward philosophical states of being, creating performances that feel less like traditional acting and more like philosophical embodiment. This influential Golden Age director worked with legends like Gregory Peck, Gary Cooper, and Audrey Hepburn while developing a philosophical approach to filmmaking. Though primarily behind the camera, Vidor occasionally took small roles, bringing his philosophical perspective to performance as well. Vidor's philosophical interests centered on spiritualism and metaphysical questions, unusual preoccupations in Hollywood's commercial environment. Unlike directors focused purely on entertainment, Vidor viewed filmmaking as philosophical exploration, particularly regarding the relationship between individual consciousness and universal principles. What made Vidor's approach distinctive was how he helped actors explore philosophical concepts through performances. Rather than treating actors as mere visual elements, he engaged them in discussions about philosophical dimensions of characters, encouraging performances that conveyed philosophical positions. Vidor's film, The Fountainhead, represents his most explicitly philosophical work, engaging directly with questions about individualism, artistic integrity, and social responsibility. Though controversial, it demonstrated Vidor's willingness to use Hollywood productions to explore significant philosophical questions. The philosophical depth Vidor brought to filmmaking created space for actors to develop their own philosophical approaches. Many who worked under his direction credited him with encouraging them to find philosophical dimensions in characters, extending his philosophical influence throughout Hollywood's golden age. Though known for contemporary performances, McDormand's approach to acting draws from the philosophical tradition of Konstantin Stanislavski. Her approach explores the concept of Perezhivanie, the lived experience that connects performer and character in a relationship more complex than imitation. Unlike actors who rely on technical tricks, McDormand applies philosophical questioning to character development, examining not just how characters behave, but the fundamental nature of their being. This approach, rooted in Stanislavski's philosophical writings, allows her to create performances of extraordinary authenticity. McDormand's philosophical approach becomes evident in her rejection of Hollywood's typical treatment of aging actresses. Rather than fighting natural processes, she has embraced aging as philosophically significant, representing accumulated wisdom rather than decline, reflecting philosophical traditions valuing wisdom over superficial attributes. Her selective approach to roles reflects philosophical principles rather than career strategy. Unlike actors chasing fame, McDormand chooses projects based on their potential for authentic exploration of human experience, a philosophical criterion leading her to challenging roles over mainstream success. The philosophical depth McDormand brings to performances like Nomadland elevates what might be simple character studies into explorations of fundamental questions about justice, community, and meaningful life. Philosophical dimensions explaining why her performances resonate so powerfully. The character actor, known for roles in films like Barton Fink, built his performances on serious philosophical foundations. Lerner studied philosophy extensively and became editor of Tikkun, a magazine exploring the intersection of politics, spirituality, and culture from philosophical perspectives. What makes Lerner's background particularly interesting is how it informed his portrayal of morally complex characters. Unlike actors who play villains as simple antagonists, Lerner brought philosophical nuance to characters like Jack Lipnick, creating figures who embody tensions between power, creativity, and authenticity. Lerner's editorial work wasn't separate from his acting but informed it, creating a rare integration of philosophical publication and performance. This dual career allowed him to explore philosophical questions both intellectually through writing and emotionally through character embodiment. Unlike many Hollywood figures whose philosophical interests amount to superficial dabbling, Lerner engaged seriously with complex traditions, particularly from Jewish thought. This depth provided philosophical resources beyond those typically available to actors, enriching his performances with layers often missed by casual viewers. While never achieving A-list fame, Lerner's philosophical approach created work distinguished by intellectual integrity and surprising depth. His career demonstrates how philosophical training can allow character actors to find profound dimensions in roles that might otherwise be played as stereotypes. Before becoming Han Solo and Indiana Jones, Ford studied philosophy at Ripon College from 1960 to 1964. Though not completing his degree, this philosophical training provided a foundation that would inform his approach to iconic roles that appeared to be simple action heroes. What makes Ford's background interesting is the contrast between his thoughtful approach and the seemingly straightforward heroes he portrayed. While audiences saw Indiana Jones as a conventional action hero, Ford approached the character philosophically, exploring questions about knowledge, cultural appropriation, and archaeological ethics beneath the adventure. Ford's philosophical training is evident in his selective approach to roles and famous script revisions. Unlike actors who passively accept whatever lines they're given, Ford consistently questioned character motivations, applying philosophical analysis to identify inconsistencies in how characters were written. In Star Wars, Ford brought unexpected depth to Han Solo, transforming a one-dimensional rogue into a character wrestling with questions about freedom, responsibility, and moral development. The character's journey from self-interest to sacrifice reflects philosophical explorations of ethical growth. While rarely discussing his philosophical background, Ford's methodical approach reflects philosophical training, prioritizing logical consistency and authentic motivation over flashy technique. This approach has created characters that resonate with audiences because they feel philosophically coherent rather than artificially constructed. I know Hugh Jackman isn't from the era of old Hollywood per se, but he fits the brief of this video so well, it would have been rude to leave him out. Obviously, he's best known for action roles like Wolverine, but Jackman is also a serious student of philosophy who has integrated philosophical thinking into his performances. Unlike actors whose philosophical interests serve as interview talking points, Jackman actively applies philosophical principles to diverse roles. Philosophy may sound highbrow, but it's simply the love of wisdom, Jackman has explained, demonstrating his accessible approach. This perspective allows him to find philosophical dimensions in commercial projects, bringing unexpected depth to roles that might otherwise be played purely for entertainment. Jackman's philosophical interests cross cultural boundaries, incorporating Western and Eastern traditions. This philosophical breadth enables him to find different entry points into characters, drawing on diverse frameworks to inform performances ranging from anti-heroes to charming musical leads. Unlike actors who compartmentalize intellectual interests from commercial work, Jackman applies philosophical thinking even to blockbuster roles like Wolverine. His portrayal evolved from simple rage to complex explorations of mortality, identity, and ethical responsibility. Philosophical dimensions elevating the role beyond typical superhero fare. Jackman's perspective is most evident in his unique career balance, moving between commercial projects and challenging work with unusual fluidity. This versatility reflects a philosophical understanding that different types of performance offer different opportunities for exploration, valuing artistic growth over category loyalty. These 13 Hollywood legends remind us that the philosophical mind and the performing body need not be strangers. Their legacies prove that intellectual depth doesn't diminish artistic impact but can profoundly enhance it, creating performances that resonate beyond their eras. While we often separate entertainment from intellectual pursuit, these actor-philosophers demonstrated that the most compelling art often emerges when deep thinking informs creative expression. Perhaps the next time you watch one of their performances, you'll glimpse not just a character, but a philosophical mind at work, revealing truths about human existence that transcend the boundaries of fiction.